honor of being on the Soulforce board. And while our executive director, the amazing Reverend Alba Onofrio, is not in the country right now, so she sent me to represent the organization and share some of her words and her reflection on Mr. Gary Nixon's life. So I'm going to go ahead and read her words to you all. The very first time I met Gary in person was almost a decade ago, when the Soulforce staff spent the afternoon with the founders of our organization in their home in Long Beach. I marveled at the beauty gathered in their home. Stainless glass windows, family photos, a fountain in the front garden, art, sculptures. Truly every square inch was curated with the beauty to behold. Something to remind the mind of the power of creation's endless art forms. Every time I commented on something that caught my eye, the answer was always Gary. Gary found that on such and such trip. Gary made that. Gary imagined, designed, created. He made things beautiful. He transformed spaces into a home, physically and spiritually. That afternoon, he rolled his eyes and smiled as Mel and I got into a deep discussion and debate about different biblical interpretations and modern theologians. But he returned a little while later with drinks and snacks. That's how we often passed our time together. Gary didn't demand the spotlight, and yet he was a pivotal part of everything, quietly curating a life filled with as much care and beauty as a historic resistance he and Mel are known for. It seems as if, perhaps, his primary resistance was through acts of love, care, and beauty. And in a world determined to exterminate us, body and soul, what a powerful example of disobedience to systems of domination. To live happily, to live freely, and bring beauty to whatever is blessed enough to be touched by you in this precious short time we have on this earth. I heard many stories over the years of Gary's hospitality, hosting countless Soulforcers in their home to fellowship and strategize how to stop spiritual violence over delicious food and extravagant welcome. I can imagine his table as a model for God's table, filled with love, beauty, and steadfast in its commitment to justice and full unwavering inclusion of all God's children. If you have been with Soulforce for any amount of time, you will see that beauty is a core value for us. We do not shy away from hard truths and necessary conversations about difficult truths, but we never sacrifice our sense of awe and beauty for intellectual pursuits. Gary taught us that they go together, the hard and the soft, the beauty alongside the anger, the love always accompanying the pain. For that and for so much more, we are grateful. Thank you, Gary, for all you have done to make Soulforce possible. We carry your legacy of resistance and extravagant welcome with us as we continue the fight against religious-based violence and work each day to make this world a more beautiful and livable place for LGBTQIA+ people and all marginalized communities. On behalf of Soulforce, staff, board, and the many, many people who are blessed by Soulforce's work, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Mel. Thank you, Gary. Thank you for everyone here. For your courage, for your love, and for your support. Your generosity and thoughts are profoundly appreciated. Thank you, everyone.
Tell you some things about Gary that nobody knows. When I first saw him in the choir at All Saints, I said, oh. And I went down into the choir robe and fell on it. Anyways, long story. But the first month or two, I knew we had nothing in common. Nothing in common. And I would say to my friends, do you think should I be serious? We have nothing in common. And they'd say, well, you like him, I like him. And I'd say, Gary, we don't have anything in common. He says, but you like me? I said, yes. You like me? Yes. Isn't that enough to have in common? Well, I don't know. For 40 years, we never once prayed together. For 40 years, he never once said to me, I love you. If I said to him, I love you, he would always respond, I love you too. But he couldn't initiate it. He'd been so abused as a child that his hatred towards his mom was just amazing. And I tried in those 40 years to help him understand that anger only takes out of you, not out of anybody else. Anyway, Gary didn't like religion. He hated religion. I'm obsessed with it, everything that you think about religious people, that's me. Everything that's religious people doesn't think. I got a great story this morning about good people do good, evil people do evil. When good people do evil, it's religious. It's not funny, but it's funny. When my caregiver found Gary's body, he couldn't come tell me. So he told the sheriff to come and tell me. And in the sheriff's perfect bedside manner, he came up and said, you know your husband's dead, right? It was one of those moments for me that, you never forget a moment like that. But they were taking his body to the, whatever that is, and one of our ministers, she is a doll, and she saw what was happening, and she ran out and administered the last rites to him. And she told me what she said to him. And I wanted so much to have been with him, and nobody wanted me to see him, blah, blah, blah. Don't ever let anybody tell you what you want to do. Just do what you want to do. And I wanted to lie beside him and talk to him. But she did it for me. And she did it with a lot more class. And I want to end by saying to you, what I've learned from all of this is, don't waste a moment. Don't waste a moment. If you have somebody you love, tell them now. Don't waste a moment. I kept thinking, did I tell him enough that I loved him? Did I tell him enough that I appreciate him? And everybody said I had. And he didn't do those things that I told you he didn't do, but what he did was he showed me love every friggin' day. By doing everything that I would like to have done before he did it. I mean, he prepared a meal and he put out, silver when I was having breakfast. He would buy, and I'm coming around to the story. What if I'd said to those guys, we don't have anything in common? And for 40 years, I like you. It was enough. For 40 years, we had that in common. And for 40 years, he was my best friend, my soulmate, my lover, and my husband. And that you're here to help me celebrate. My theology says, he's here too. And I don't mean just whirling around like a spirit. I mean, he's here. He's here with us. And he is enjoying it. to the max. He can't believe that Soulforce has gone from Soulforce to booze to bands. But mariachis, yeah. And with this, when I want to quit. I wish I had any of those moments to live over. But you know, we live those moments and we live them well. So for 40 years, I felt like we gave to each other everything we could give, and the result was a guy who never says I love you, but said I love you in every way, every day. So my back to you is, tell him you love him. Tell him you love him, and tell him you love him, and tell him you appreciate him, tell him you appreciate him. Because one day, we went to bed that night after watching TV, and I turned away, I turned my back, and he slipped away, gone, after 40 years. And how I miss him, and how glad I am that we had those 40 years. And if you don't see these films before you go, you'll miss a lot of seeing about Gary, what he was like. Thank you for coming, and come again when we have mariachis, okay?
Tu palpitar